All right, guys, so for today's video, I wanted to talk about the aftermath of alligator attacks. And well, we typically know the human aftermath, that's reported on widely. What is the alligator aftermath? What is the environmental aftermath of when one of these things happens, right? Now, normally when, why am I talking about this? If you didn't see any of my other videos this past month, we have had 4 different alligator attacks this past month in Florida. I say attacks because they were all completely preventable. So if I was gonna label something an attack, I would say it was like somebody's not doing any of the high-risk activities and gets grabbed by an alligator completely unexpectedly, not doing high-risk activities. What are those high-risk activities? The 3 things I always talk about: feeding them, kids and pets near the water's edge, swimming or being in the water in alligator habitat. Those are our 3 super high risk factors. Almost all the alligator attacks happen because of these very preventable things that humans choose to do. So don't do those things and you'll be fine, right? Which I talked about a lot in past videos. You can go check those out. I go into each one of the cases of the 4 recent alligator attacks this last month. If you don't know them, go watch your previous videos. I break down each one, what happened, why it happened, all that kind of stuff. But what I haven't really talked a lot about is what happens to them, right? So what happens to the alligator whenever somebody gets bit or worse. So every time if somebody does get bit by an alligator, just bit, not even like they got killed, not even losing an arm. I mean, just like literally if an alligator just bit someone, let them go, 100% of the time that alligator is going to die, okay? Now, I want people to really understand that. Now, if it's an alligator that has actually caused that much, damage or something like that, like a lot of people would, do you mind? He's trying to eat my stick. A lot of people would consider that to be justified, right? That's not the point I'm making. I'm just trying to get people to understand what does happen, and that most alligators being killed as nuisance animals is in fact not justifiable. So if an alligator does anything, if somebody calls in about an alligator and says, well, actually, let me back this up. Let me explain what is a nuisance alligator, what happens, all this kind of stuff. Even if no human is hurt, what happens if you call about an alligator? So you call the cops, you call whoever. Either way, the phone call goes to Fish and Wildlife eventually, and then they are going to ask, do you feel threatened by the alligator? Now, that's a subjective opinion. Anybody can have the opinion of being threatened by an alligator, even if the alligator does absolutely nothing to warrant that person's opinion, which is what happens every single day in Florida. All an alligator has to do is simply be somewhere, have someone call and say they are of the opinion it is a threat to human life or property, which includes your pets. So there can be an alligator that shows up in somebody's backyard, has 0 interactions with any human or pet. It takes one person to call and be like, oh my God, I saw an alligator out my back window. Doesn't have to have done literally anything, just has to be there. Somebody calls, they're going to say, do you think it's a threat? And the person's like, well, yeah, I'm worried about my dog, I'm worried about me or my kid, whatever. That's all it takes, somebody to say just that. Alligator's now going to die as a nuisance gator, which is pretty crazy. I think that's a little bit extreme, but there's reasons why. So the way the state of Florida handles it, any alligator, if it's over 4 feet, gets a call as a nuisance animal, it will be killed. 99.99999% of the time, unless the very rare occasion ends up in captivity, but it will not be relocated. If it's under 4 feet, they can relocate it. Under 4 feet, it's not considered to be a threat or a real problem, usually. But if it's over 4 feet, it is dead or it is in captivity the rest of its life, which being put in captivity is incredibly rare because the nuisance alligator trapper actually makes his money by killing the alligator and selling the meat in the hide. The trapper gets paid $50 per alligator they catch. You know how long it takes you to catch an alligator? So I used to do gator trapping, nuisance gator trapping as an agent. I was never like the main guy, but I was an agent where you go out and catch the alligator. Some days you're out there for 12 hours, count 0 alligators, okay? Some days you catch multiple in a day. It varies. Alligators are individualistic. Some are smart. Some are very wary. Some of them just swim right up because they've been fed. It's all different cases. But the point being, the trapper is not making any money here unless he kills the alligator, sells the meat in the hide. That's the point. So the only way for a trapper to really make money or really make any sort of living off of this is if they are killing the alligator. Or, really big ones, they will sell to a hunting farm. and they do canned hunts. They sell them to a farm, and the farm will have retention ponds fenced off, very much like this, and they will put the gator in there, and then some rich a-hole from up north or somewhere else who has nothing to do with anything wildlife in Florida will fly in usually. Sometimes it is locals, sometimes, but more than often it is somebody who flies in, got a lot of money, and they'll pay anywhere from $10,000 or $20,000 to go hunt a giant alligator. Hunt. You're not hunting it. It was already hunted. It was already caught, and then it gets thrown in a pond, and then this guy flies in, pays a lot of money, and then he kills it and gets to act like he's a big game hunter. He's Mr. Tough Guy. He's got his trophy of the alligator he hunted. It's a load of crap. It's absolutely disgusting. But that is what is commonly done, and that is how they make their money. The bigger the gator, the more money you can make by selling it to one of these hunting farms, right? So that's how that works. Now, Big Mac, he's around that size class. He's on the lower end of it. Bella, she's too small, so Bella would be killed for the meat and the hide. Big Mac might go to a farm. He might be killed for the meat and the hide. The meat and the hide part, obviously they make a living doing that too, but the real money's in the really big guys, and that's where you do that canned hunting thing. Now, the trapper sells it to one of these farms. The farms are the ones charging that amount of money. The trapper usually charges, I think, anywhere between $1,000 and $2,000, depending on the size of the animal. Like, we paid for Stallone. We bought him off the trapper and paid him what he would have got, and that was $1,500, So it does vary. It depends on the size of the animal. Oh man, he just did a good yawn. I'm trying to keep my peripheral here, and that's why I got the stick there in case he starts creeping. But anyways, that's how that system works. That does not mean the trapper's a bad guy. I want to make that very clear. We don't hate the trappers, because if we did, he'd be dead. We wouldn't have them. We do work with the trappers. Some trappers are really cool and really nice guys, and they really don't want to kill the alligator, and they try to do what they can. Like Trapper Ron, that's who we mainly work with. He's a super nice guy. He doesn't want to kill the alligators, And so some trappers like him are really cool, really chill, and he's basically retired. This is like his retirement job, so he's not in it for the money. Some trappers are not. Some trappers are not nice and don't care and want to kill them and don't want to help the alligators at all. They just want to kill them, make their money, and we'll offer them money, and they're like, I don't want it. I'd rather the gator die. That's how some of them are, but we don't want to paint this brush of hatred against all trappers as if they're all the same, because they're absolutely not. Just like we don't paint a brush on anybody based on their profession or anything about them. Everyone is an individual, and they should be treated as such. That's my opinion, at least. But anyways, we're going down a rabbit hole on this thing. Point being, nuisance gator, if it gets a call, whether or not it attacked anybody, 99% of the time it is going to die, and that's what I want people to really understand, and there's nothing you can do about that. You cannot choose what happens to the gator. You cannot choose your trapper. You don't get to be like, oh hey, can you send Ron because I hear he's nice. Doesn't work like that. You don't get to pick your trapper, and you definitely don't get to pick what happens to the alligator, okay? That one I need to make abundantly clear, because I get calls and emails constantly from people who are like, oh, I want you to come get the gator, Chris. I want you to come. I am not a trapper. Okay, again, I got to work as a trapping agent, but I am not a trapper. I cannot just show up to your yard. Do not ask for me. It doesn't work like that. And even if it did, you couldn't ask for me anyways, because you don't get to pick it, So make that abundantly clear. You can't pick what happens to the gator. You can't pick the trapper. So if you do call in about a nuisance gator, assume with certainty the gator is going to die if you call it in. Now, obviously, if it did bite somebody, or it is trying to hunt your dog or your kid, you got to call it in. But if it's not causing a direct threat, I advocate that you leave it alone. Now, you can do what you want, of course, but my opinion is if it is not actively causing a direct threat to anybody, leave it alone. We're in Florida. There's supposed to be alligators, okay? If you're not comfortable with that, maybe you shouldn't be in Florida. That's my hot take. But either way, I do advocate that people try to think about something, other than themselves and think, well, the gator's got to live too. They have to be here. And unless it's really causing a threat, just leave it alone. Now, again, if it is causing a real threat, you got to do what you got to do. I'm not trying to say that, but that's my take on it. Anyways, why are we going down this rabbit hole again? So back to the recent alligator attack. So any gator that did attack somebody, definitely dead. I've never heard of a gator that did actually bite somebody ever going into captivity, as far as I know. Now, I don't know every case off the top of my head, but as far as I know, I do know of one trapper trying to get an alligator that had actually killed someone And they were like, absolutely not, trying to keep it alive is what I'm saying. One trapper I know, he was trying to keep that gator alive, put it in captivity, it had killed somebody, and they're like, absolutely not. You know, that's disrespectful to the human's life. Some people feel that way. I don't see, you know, like, it's not the gator's fault as being a gator at the end of the day. We are the ones that are smart. His brain is this big. Okay, how do you blame him for doing what he naturally does if you or someone else chose actions that we know are very dangerous, we know are bad ideas, and we know put you in a place where your life will be in danger, and then we blame the gator for being a gator? I don't think that's necessarily fair. You're the one with the big smart monkey brain. His brain is this big, okay? So that's why I'm like, I just don't understand that. Now, what I really wanted to get into on this subject, sorry, we had to lay some groundwork first, but what I really want to talk about in this video is that oftentimes when a gator just bites somebody, they kill that alligator, maybe a couple more in that area, okay, which does usually happen. They'll usually kill every gator in the immediate area to get the right one. So that's usually what's going to happen. So even if nobody dies, even if it was minor, even if somebody just got bit, it let go, a couple punctures, you're relatively okay. They're probably going to kill every alligator in that immediate area, which is usually like 5 or 6 or 10 or something like that, right? Now, if somebody dies though, that's where it gets, I think, really overboard on the reactionary response from humans, where they often kill every alligator, not in the immediate area, I mean within miles sometimes. So the most famous case of this would be the kid at Disney. There's a 2-year-old child in the water at night. Again, what are you doing? You let your 2-year-old child wade in the water at night in a lake in Florida. Oh, but Chris, it was in Disney. Oh, I'm sorry. The alligators see the sign Disney World. They turn around. They won't go in there because they see the sign, right? Yeah. Doesn't matter where you are. There's alligators everywhere. It doesn't matter. Oh, but there's fences. They don't care. Okay? Keep in mind, most of Florida is a swampland, and to be able to build on that, we have to drain swamps, and we do that with canals and retention ponds, and a lot of those are connected by pipes underneath the ground. They move through the pipes. So even if there is a perfect fence they cannot climb, which, by the way, they can climb some fences. My fences are specifically designed, they cannot climb mine, but a regular chain link they can. But even if you have a really high fence they cannot climb, if you have your retention pond, canal, whatever, it's part of a water control structure. Okay, that's the idea behind it. It's not there to look nice and pretty. It is there to control flooding. And so for that reason, under the ground, they usually have pipes. The gators go through the pipes. So the gators will get into any and all retention ponds, canals, etc. So do not assume because there's a fence around it that it is safe. It's not how that works, okay? But anyways, a lot of people are like, oh, it's a Disney, it's supposed to be safe. Get that crap out of your head. These animals are everywhere. If there's water in Florida, there's alligators. That's the way your brain has to work here, okay? At least if you want to keep your body parts. So that's the way we have to look at the situation. So anyways, 2-year-old child wading in the water at night at Disney, gets grabbed by an alligator. It's a really unfortunate case. Not only was it bad to have a kid in the water, obviously, also at night, really increases your risk. They're much more predatory at night. But then also, apparently, that gator had been being fed by people for a very long time, and Disney was well aware of the fact, as I have been told. So again, that's 2 out of the 3 things that you're not supposed to do. Don't go in the water. I should add, don't go in the water, especially at night, to that list. And then don't feed them, you know, which they weren't feeding him, but the gator had been fed, and Disney was aware of that apparently and didn't take any action. But either way, so what was the response of the one kid being killed? They immediately killed every alligator in that body of water right there, which I said, again, that is the norm. That is what they pretty much always do if any person gets hurt by an alligator. But the really crazy part is they then killed over 400 alligators on Disney property in response to that, which is crazy in my opinion. Now, obviously, I'm an animal nut. I love the animals, and I don't think it's the alligator's fault. Now, if you got the gator, they got the kid, I understand that. Why did they kill 400 more? Over 400 more. You know, like, that's the part that gets me, where I'm like, that gator's just going to be a gator, man. The answer is to educate people. have proper signage. We are the ones with the big brains, not him. Come on. You know, you're not going to teach the gators a lesson. That's what a lot of people think. That's how this works. We kill all the alligators in the area. That'll make it safe because now they're all gone. Duh, doesn't work. They move back in. Duh, that's not going to work. Like I just said, these bodies of water are connected. There's 1.3 million alligators in the state of Florida. You're not getting rid of the gators. That is not going to happen. That's not going to work. So a lot of people have this idea that, oh, well, we kill all of them. They're gonna get the message. We're sending a message. Oh, because they have conversations at tea time, and oh, did you hear what happened to Johnny? He got killed because he ate a human. Oh my goodness! I'll make sure I don't do that. That's lunacy. That's, you know, there's no communication between these animals, and obviously they're not going to know. And even if there was communication between them, why would? Just for the sake of argument, it's not like they're going to know, okay? Dead men tell no tales. All their buddies just start disappearing. They don't know why, you know? Like it's, God, it's all crazy is what I'm trying to say. And I don't think that we should be killing animals for acting like animals. Now, there is the argument that you are thinning the herd, less gators, less probability of an attack. Yes, that makes sense. That is logical. But again, you're not eliminating the chance. You can lower the chance if you're killing off most of them. That does make sense, but you're not getting rid of the chance entirely. So again, the answer is educating the people, having proper signage, having awareness, having the people there know, hey, there's alligators everywhere. We need to be smart. We are the smartest species in the world. We need to be aware of that, right? So yeah, I don't know. That just really, really bothers me, right? I really don't like that. I do understand, you know, they want to get the one that got the person. There's also the argument that like once any predatory animal eats a human, they become a man-eater and go on a rampage. That is so blown out of proportion, but there is a little bit of truth to that, where a lot of predatory animals are very afraid of humans, and then once they get one, they're like, oh, why am I so afraid of these things? That was actually really easy. It didn't have big teeth. It didn't have big claws. It doesn't have thick fur or thick skin. And we're just a little meat puppet for these things to eat. So once they do get a person, sometimes some predatory animals do learn, oh my God, that's really easy. I'm going to get more of those. So there is some logic behind that, but I would say that is much more the rarity, considering like they have other prey that's a lot easier. But again, there is some reality and logic behind that mindset. But anyways, so the Disney one, that was 2016, but the fatality we just had of the 31-year-old woman that was swimming in the river with her dogs in a river that is famously known for having really big alligators. Again, just really bad idea, really, really bad. Obviously, I am very sensitive to the tragedy. We should, and I said this in the last video, I talked about this too. Don't victim blame. Don't like, oh, you know, they had it coming. They don't have it coming. Don't ever say that. That's really messed up. If you hear the audio from her friends and her boyfriend that were there, you'll never think that. Okay, that's horrifying. You do have to have empathy. I have empathy towards the people. I also have empathy towards the animals too, though. Okay, you both can exist. Both exist in my heart for sure. You know, so like we don't blame the people, but we don't want to blame all the alligators either, especially when we're talking about a lot of them, which is what is going to happen here. So where that woman was killed, they're talking about opening that up as a THA, which is a target harvest area, basically killing all the alligators in that area right there. Okay, I just want to make sure we're still going. But yeah, so because I'm here by myself, guys, I got the camera on a tripod, so that's why like I'll stop halfway through, because sometimes my phone overheats and then I am just monologuing for 15 minutes to myself and it's not even being recorded. Okay, that's why I got to do the camera checks. You know, I've already had this happen. But anyways, so they want to open that up as a THA, and that means they're going to kill all the alligators in that area. Now, this is in a state forest. I am not sure how that works. I don't know why that would be legal. That shouldn't be allowed because the state forest is an area that is supposed to be protected for nature in there. Yeah, I'm very, very upset about this. Now, this is, as far as I know, this is not 100% decided. I think it is only so far suggested. So I'm not entirely clear if this is going to happen 100% or not yet, but I know they're talking about it. So that's why I wanted to talk about it. So if they do open this up, that'd be really sad. That'd be really messed up. Obviously, again, very sensitive and empathetic to the fact that, you know, this woman lost her life, and that's horrible. And again, we do not victim blame her, but we do need to understand she took actions that skyrocketed her risk. She chose to go in the water, which you should never do, in an area literally known for giant alligators, really, really bad. Also decided to bring her dog in the water with her. You are swimming in his food bowl and you brought your meat bowl with you. Gators love to eat dogs. I talk about this on the previous video. I talk about it a ton, so you can go, you know, listen to me talk about that more. But like, bro, you're swimming in his soup bowl with meat. You brought your own meatball to the party, okay? Like, just really, 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 really bad. So I've beaten that to death in the last video. So really bad. But that being said, I really feel for her. We learn, preventable, don't do those things. I understand that they killed 2 alligators in that immediate area. One was 12 feet. Supposedly that's the one that got her. Another alligator was 13 feet, completely unrelated to the situation. It was the 12-footer is the one that actually got her. Do you know how rare a 13-foot alligator actually is? Like a true 13-foot alligator. I have seen less than 10 in my life in the wild that are of that size class, you know? Now, people exaggerate all the time. You get all the rednecks, oh yeah, I see them all the time. No, I mean one you can put a measuring tape on, because I've done it, you know? And once you know for a fact, if you've measured one and now you have that reference, which I do, I can now pretty accurately tell you, whoa, that is a huge alligator. So that's what I mean. Now, a lot of, you know, it's just like fishing stories. Every redneck says they see 13-footers all the time. Put a measuring tape on it, it's like 10, maybe 11, you know? I deal with this all the time working in this field. So that's why, like, I know what a true 13-foot animal looks like, and it is insanely huge and insanely rare. Very, very rare. And so here's a part of this that really upsets me. And ironically, I did a story for, I was interviewed for a story for Slate about nuisance gators that came out right when all this chaos was happening about the attacks. But I had been interviewed for weeks and weeks ago. And in that one, you know, I said, and I'll say it again, you have people who are making decisions about animals, about whether or not an animal lives or dies, about an animal that is older than they are. I said it a lot better in the article. I just stumbled through that. But no, really, I mean, think about it. Like, you got some guy that is making a decision about an animal that could be over 100 years old. A 13-foot alligator is massive, and I would say, we don't know the ages when we look at them, but I would say it is at least 50, if not over 70 or 80. It could literally be 120 for all we know. The point being, it's a very big, very old, very rare animal, and we are just flippantly deciding whether or not it lives or dies by somebody who's probably half that animal's age gets to make the decision without ever seeing it. That is inherently messed up. That is just gross to me as someone who loves all animals. Now, I understand getting the one that got her. I get that. I'm not going to argue about that. But getting other ones that had nothing to do with this, that are 13 feet, like, oh my God. Now, at this point, they didn't know though. So okay, I'll give you that one. It still upsets me. I think it's still really awful, but I get it. You killed that one because you thought it might have been the one that did it. It wasn't. So he's just collateral damage, I guess, for being a giant, massive, old, incredibly rare animal. But now they want to open up that whole area and kill all the big alligators in a protected area. That's the only reason you have a 12 and 13-foot gator, is because it's a protected area where nature is supposed to be allowed to be nature and get big. Because outside of a protected area like that, big gators are just magnets for guys with little tiny penises that want to kill animals and make themselves feel tough. Big gators get poached. If they are not in a directly protected and patrolled area, they get poached all the time, like all the time. The bigger it is, the more of a magnet it becomes for insecure poachers. It's just, which, come fight me, okay? People get mad when I say, I'm like, if you are out there killing an animal just because it's big and impressive, it means you got the tiniest little wiener ever. That's what that means about you. I hate these people so much. And so I will start ranting. Set that aside. okay? Because I'll start getting real mad. It really upsets me. Anyways, they are going to open up that whole area that is protected, that has been protected, that has allowed these massively large animals to live as nature intended, to get big and get huge and be impressive animals. And then they're gonna open up that whole area. Allegedly, they might be opening up that whole area and killing off all those really big alligators, which is just so sad and so depressing, especially because they already got the one that did it, supposedly. They got the one that got her. Why would you go in and kill all the other alligators? Oh, because it was unsafe. That's why someone died, because it was unsafe. No, someone died because they chose to do things that are unsafe, not because the area is wild. The wild is inherently unsafe. That's why it's the wild. That's why if you go into the wild, you realize you are not top of the food chain in there, dude. I love having wild places. I really do. I think that's amazing. Some people don't like that. And that's what cities are for people like that. Stay in the city. If you don't like going into a place where you are not top of the food chain, then don't go there. That's why we have fences around these places, okay? You know, like, leave nature to be nature. For the love of God, we need some areas on this planet that we're just raping and pillaging where the wild can still be the wild. And if you chose to go into those areas, yes, there is risk, but the people who truly love nature are accepting of those risks and they go in there. And usually they are, hopefully, educated about these risks and choose to do things that do not dramatically elevate their risk. Get what I'm saying? We need places that are wild and places that can stay wild. Humans do not need to just destroy everything everywhere, man. That's a separate rant I can just keep on going on and on about. But anyways, I will be so upset if they do open this up as a THA and then they kill, you know, a dozen alligators that are up in that 11, 12, maybe even another 13 footer in there. I don't know. I've seen some photos people have sent from that area to me that frequent it, and they're like, dude, look at this one. I'm like, oh my God, that's at least 12. I saw photos, at least multiple in that 12-foot range. I don't know if there's another 13 footer in there at all, to be honest with you. Might have been the last one. They're so rare when they get that big. So anyways, what can we do to fix this? Nothing. I mean, to save those individuals, nothing as far as I know. I don't think there's, as far as I know, there's no one you can contact. You can have a petition going for. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to look more into it and see. I also don't know for a fact whether or not they are going to open it up as a THA. But what I did is I called our friend Trapper Ron and I asked him if he knows the trapper for that area. And he said he does. And I asked him like, hey, can you ask that guy if they open that up as a THA and if it is true and if he's going to be in there and he's going to be grabbing, you know, gators out of there, if he gets any really big ones, tell him I will pay him whatever he's going to get. If he gets another 13 footer and you know, I'll pay him more than whatever the farmer is going to pay him to save that animal. You know, if he gets any that are 12, 13, keep us in mind, please let us know. We'll pay you more. We'll make it more worth your while so we can put that animal into captivity. How can I afford to do that? I can't. That's why I got you guys. Okay? No, really, if this happens, these are ifs. Again, this is not for sure yet. But if it does happen, if they do open it up, and if the trapper's cool, this is up to him. I have no influence. If he decides, you know what, no, I don't want to do that, then that's on him. I can't change his mind. You know, I can't force him to. So hopefully they don't open it up as a THA, but if they do, then hopefully that trapper decides he does want to play ball with us and is cool with it and says, yeah, I'll sell you Bellowing Acres, I'll sell you, you know, the big 12 and 13 footers, or Gatorland. Gatorland gets them too. That's another great option. They got a lot more space than we do. You know, but hopefully we can get this guy to play ball and be cool and be like, okay, so any monsters I get out of here, we'll put into captivity at your place or maybe at Gatorland or something like that, you know? Not that I've spoke to them about it, I haven't, but I'm sure they'd be interested too. But either way, so hopefully we can do that, and then we can try to save some of these animals. If that does happen, I will definitely be doing a ton of fundraising, and I'll be leaning heavy on you guys because we don't have space right now. We would have to build new, like, I don't know how many animals we're even talking about here. You know, I have no idea, but we would absolutely have to build a new temporary. And our temporaries are okay for the size class we have here. You guys see my temporary enclosures. I don't know if it would even fit one that's 13, to be honest with you. But we would have to very quickly do some fundraising to bang out some real big enclosure, well, at least temporary at first, fundraising to build out a temporary, fundraising to pay for the alligator. If it's another one that's like 13, holy crap, I don't know what that would cost. Probably at least $5,000. You know, if the hunter camps or farms or whatever, if they're doing their experience for 10, I would imagine the trapper's making maybe 5 off of that. You know, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just making those numbers up. You know, I'm not sure off the top of my head because I try not to look at that stuff because it upsets me. But anyways, yeah, we'd have to try to do some fundraising, build some new enclosures, you know, pay for the enclosure, pay for the new animal. And, you know, that would just be my goal, is to try to save some of these really big, huge, ancient animals and not have this massive loss, you know, because I just think that is horribly messed up. And even if an animal is dangerous to people, I think we have a responsibility to still protect massively impressive, rare animals, even if they are dangerous. Which is a whole different conversation. I would still like to do a separate video talking about that, because I get so many people that comment and they're like, why would you protect something that doesn't love you back? And why would you protect something that is in fact a threat to you? I'm like, oh, I don't know. Maybe because I care about something other than myself? It's craziness. I can understand people not wanting to protect something that is a threat to them. I really don't understand the insane amount of comments. This is not one comment. I get this comment, if I have a viral video, I get this comment every day, multiple times a day. Why would you protect and save something that doesn't love you back? Whether or not it's a threat is not even what they're talking about. Why would you protect something, or why would you love something that doesn't love you back? If you think the only thing deserving of love is if it loves you back, you don't know what love is. That's my hot take on that one. But yeah, really upsetting. That's a separate video I would like to go into deeper. Yeah, but this one, we'll wrap this up. I know this video is going on. But anyways, yeah, I just want to give you guys some updates on that kind of stuff and just kind of talk about, you know, the aftermath of a gator attack. What happens to the alligators? Spoiler, they all die. How do we prevent this? Education. Again, I just cannot beat this home enough. Education, education, education. If you are one of my viewers that is in another country, educate your friends and family, even if they don't see alligators, just in case they go on vacation. They end up here in Florida and they're on vacation. These rules also apply anywhere in the world, any kind of crocodilian species. Now, gators are relatively chill though. So if we were going to talk about like safety around other crocodilian species, we want to add a few more rules on that. But, you know, the basic ones, don't feed them, don't have kids and pets near the water's edge, don't swim in their habitat. That works worldwide. But also, if I was talking about anywhere else, I would also say, you know, like, don't even get within like 20 yards of the water if we're talking about Salties or Niles or something, you know. Different rules, different places. But anyways, educating people is how we save human lives. It's also how we save animal lives. That's really the key. Education again. But anyways, guys, let me know in the comments what you think, questions, any of that kind of stuff, and we'll see you all in the next one.